Welcome to the Daily Insider here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers as we get set for today's show, Friday, February 25th, 2022. Already almost at the end of this month, and we'll be at March Madness soon. Conference tournaments starting up, and NBA, thankfully, is back now after last night. We had a handful of games and got a lot more NBA to talk about. James Harden will make his 76ers debut tonight against Minnesota. Also, we'll talk plenty of NBA. Brendan Glasheen is going to join us, 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston, among other things. And we'll talk Celtics. Boston Celtics have won 12 of 14. They are on fire right now. That Atlantic division is going to be very interesting going down the stretch. We'll talk to Brendan about that and some other things. Also, Thom Carroll is going to join us, as he does every Friday. Tommy Freeze Pops. And Thom Cunningham is going to talk movies. We're going to look at Best Actor, Best Actress nominees for the Oscars coming up next month. So all of that coming up. But before we get to all of it, SI Sportsbook. That's right. If you are in the state of Colorado, you can play here. New players only get up to $300 in free bets. Make a bet of $10 or more and receive a $10 free bet up to 30 times. Again, new players only. 21 years or older, located in the great state of Colorado. Promo code ROAD300. Full terms and conditions apply. That is the Sports Illustrated Sportsbook. You can find them also online at sisportsbook.com. All right, let's get our man. If he can't do it, no one can. It's Thom Carroll. Good to see you again, Thom.
Hey, nice to see you, Kevin. Yeah, not to go right to the weather off the top here again like we did last Friday, but just to square our audience away, it was 70 degrees on Wednesday here in Rhode Island, and we are now in the midst of a snowstorm, and we're going to get like 6 to 10 inches, and it's completely ruining everyone's Friday. So again, I don't know why I do this. I don't know why I've made this decision to live in the Northeast, but here we are. Happy Friday.
Bad decision, number one. Number two, I'm wearing my jacket not in honor of you being cold because the room I'm in is cold. That's why I was complaining about it.
Yeah, because you guys are blasting the AC.
Tom, it's like 80 degrees outside. This room is freezing. That's the only reason why I'm wearing this jacket, not because I feel bad for you or anything.
I hate
Let's go to New England also. Brendan Glasheen. He is of long resume, 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston. Also, DraftKings, Action Network. What else am I missing?
Doing some play-by-play, Maine Celtics, Connecticut Sun. You know, just got to dip your toes in everything, man. It's that kind of industry.
My guy.
Are you as cold as Tom is right now up in New England?
It's fine. You know, like we're almost there. You know, like come on, Tom. We've got like a month to go.
Yeah, you say that, right? Like we're almost there, and we were there on Wednesday, and now look at what's going. And I know like this happens every year, right? We do the up and down thing. But it's just a real kick in the pants, right? You go from 70 to like 24, freezing rain, snow. Like it's just, I'm over it. Every year I'm over it. I don't understand why I do this. I don't. I could be living in Florida right now with Kevin. I don't know why I do this.
Then go.
You can go. You're welcome here if you want to. The rent and mortgages are
Kevin, this guy just moved back to New England, and he's already complaining about it.
I'm done. I've had a nice 6-month run. I'm out.
All right, Brendan, let's start with this. The Boston Celtics. All right, so a couple of things here, a lot of layers with the Celtics. They've won 12 of 14. I mean, the game I remember before this streak started was against Portland, a game that they had in the bag, it felt like, and the Blazers came back and beat them. And then since then, the Celtics have really heated up. Number one, I don't want to take away from Brad Stevens. I don't want to do that. But Ime Udoka, I feel like it took him a little bit of time now. Obviously, having Jason Tatum play well, having Jaylen Brown healthy. Now, is this the team that people are going to keep an eye on in a very crowded East?
For sure. I think Ime Udoka has shortened his rotation, and folks were a little confused as to what he might have been trying to do because there was a time after that Portland loss. Do the Celtics now need to start just getting younger, play their young guys, trade Schroeder, which they did, trade Richardson, which they did, trade Horford, which I thought was on the table. They did not do that. Trade a Marcus Smart, who is not old like Horford is necessarily, but a veteran that may have just ran out of time here in Boston. But this is the version that they envisioned when they hired Udoka. My favorite Udoka quote before the season started, and he caught a lot of he got a lot of crap for it because of the jab he took at Brad Stevens. We got to get those assists up. Celtics were bottom 5 in the NBA in assists last year. And Udoka couldn't turn it around. So you wondered, can he get through to this team? And they've turned a corner. As you said, winners of 12 of their last 14 games. They're sharing the basketball. They've been very unselfish. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have both realized, oh, we can still get our 20 to 30 points a night and be ball handlers as well as distributors. Like that works. If you share the basketball, you will find opportunities to get yourself open shots. And Marcus Smart kind of preached that early in the season. Now the message didn't go through as fast as folks would like, but the Celtics win total before the season, their projected win total was at 46.5. Now books across the board are moving that number back up. You're seeing 47.5 on DraftKings, for example. They're in good shape to hit their total. That did not look promising after their 9-game win streak. It did not look like they'd get there. And the other thing too, Kev, is the addition of Derek White. That look, he hasn't been a big part of the win streak or this win run they've been on lately, but White has fit in seamlessly. He's almost like the next coming of Marcus Smart. He's fit in nicely.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up here, Glash, is Derek White has been such a revelation because, the deadline, the Celtics make the move for White, and the casual fan, like I was getting all these texts, who the heck is Derek White? Am I supposed to be excited about Derek White? Like, okay, cool, Derek White. What are we doing? Why are we giving up an unprotected first 6 years from now for Derek White? Why are we worried about 6 years from now? Like, let's try and win a title in the next 2 years here while you've got Tatum and Brown in their prime. I'm not worried about 6 years from now. I think that was a brilliant move. And not to get super simple on it, but when Derek White got traded to the Celtics, if you looked at Spurs Twitter, all of their fans were incredibly pissed that the Spurs lost Derek White. And that's why he has that good Marcus Smart comp, right? Because Celtics fans, like diehard green teamers, love Marcus Smart. But basketball kind of purists and guys that are focused on numbers or hate Marcus Smart, right? So Derek White has that kind of like blue collar connectivity between the fans, and it's proven out to be great so far in the early going here. I know the numbers aren't crazy, but his plus minus when he's on the floor is awesome for Boston. So love the Derek White move so far.
He's fit in, Tom. He's fit into what they want defensively. The Celtics have the second best defensive rating in basketball, only behind Golden State. 104.8 is their defensive rating through 61 games. Derek White is exactly what they needed as far as a wing guy. Now, the criticism of the move was, well, why didn't you keep Richardson and bring in White? Because you're losing shooting. But White proved in his first game at the TD Garden in Boston that he can shoot it a bit, and as long as Tatum and Brown remain unselfish, they're going to get guys like a Grant Williams, who I'm not huge on Grant Williams, but Grant has proven he can knock down the three in the corner. He's been a high percentage 3-point shooter this season. Got to give him credit for it. He's been a high percentage 3-point
I'm waiting for that to end at some point.
Yeah,
right?
I know, but
how is this continuing?
That's why I would have loved a DiVincenzo pickup from Milwaukee, but they didn't get him. And look, maybe they do find a way to get like a Gary Harris in the buyout market. I'm not sure they will. Then again, if they keep this up, the Celtics might emerge as a contender. As I said, though, Ime Udoka has kept this rotation very tight. So from the outside looking in, if you're a buyout prospect, are you looking at the Celtics? Well, he's only playing 8 guys. Like he ain't going to let me crack their rotation. So no, White has been fantastic as a wing D guy, and will come in and fulfill his role. And he can be a ball handler too. Like that was the other concern. You lose Schroeder. So we mentioned Richardson, you lose the shooting, but you get the defense. And then how do they address the pure point guard aspect? And they didn't do it. Like I thought Dragic would have been great, but he went to Brooklyn. They still don't have that, but we've seen in the NBA in the past, you don't need to have an elite point guard to win the championship. You don't. So we'll see.
I'm going to put on the screen here, Brendan. Look, the Atlantic Division odds. And sorry, Knicks fans, you're out of this, so you're not on the screen. But the 76ers at minus 200. Now Harden's in. We'll talk about Harden in a little bit. He's making his debut tonight. Celtics at 3-1. Toronto's played very well 7-1. Brooklyn hanging around, but you need to figure out the Kyrie thing if he's eligible or when he's eligible again to play the home games, when Durant comes back and when Ben Simmons comes back. But Brendan, so the Celtics, before I get to the odds, I want to go to this with you. They've been great on the road recently. They destroyed Brooklyn twice. I get that Brooklyn was down. I don't care. They were dominating performances. They dominated Philadelphia on the road. That now, are people taking this team seriously to win the Atlantic? I feel like it's the Nets. They'll get it together. The Sixers with Embiid and Harden. But nobody's talking about the Celtics, who are just a game and a half back of Philadelphia right now.
Yeah, well, look, the Nets can get it together for the play-in / playoffs, right? This question, this Atlantic Division question, is about the regular season. Now, I don't mean to throw, water on this, but the value with the Celtics in this to win this division, which this has been the most exciting, from a betting perspective. This has been a lot of fun talking about this Atlantic Division, because you could have got the Celtics at plus 700, plus 4 digits a week or two ago, until we found out, of course, the trade happened with Harden. So it's a couple things here. The Raptors, I wouldn't touch it, okay? Because the Raptors, Nick Nurse plays his dudes way too many minutes. Like Fred VanVleet, I think, is going to play tonight, but VanVleet, Siakam, these guys are playing 40 minutes a night. Like Nick Nurse has no issue running these guys into the ground. Now, look, to be fair, I think he's run a good program there with Kawhi, and you go back a few years. But overall, I don't know if the Raptors are going to have enough to win the division, and they're lucky to just make the playoffs. And by playoffs, I mean the play-in tournament. Brooklyn, I don't trust them one bit. I think Brooklyn's going to be in the play-in tournament. I do. I think Brooklyn's staying right where they are. Even if this guy who's on your screen right now does get opportunities to play in New York, good for you, folks, that you want to buy tickets to go watch him play and enjoy it. But yeah, I think they've got their mindset on the playoffs or play-in. There's no way they're moving. Celtics, like you said, beat them down twice, but this question is about the division. And then next, it's Philadelphia. The Celtics, that Celtics dominating win in Philly is huge because it split the season series. They both won 2 apiece. I don't have it up in front of me, but from a games back standpoint, I want to see what it looks like here first with Harden and Embiid, because Joel Embiid is in the midst of an MVP conversation here with Nikola Jokic. I don't know. Embiid's saying all the right things. He's tweeting all the right emojis and memes. But when it actually comes to the basketball, is he going to be okay with sacrificing the MVP kind of season he's had? I'm not so sure of that. And here's the other thing. Last thing I'll say on this. I love Doc Rivers. I'm grateful for what he did for the Celtics. Got the big 3, Mbutu, the whole thing. Doc's a little overrated when it comes to getting superstars to mesh. Keep in mind, Garnett, Pierce, and Allen were healthy that whole year in 2008 when they won 66 games. When he had to deal with the whole Griffin, Paul thing, it didn't work great, or they underachieved. Kawhi and Paul George clearly underachieved. Doc, I don't know. You're going to have to manage a hamstring, and Embiid's got injury history as well. So those guys are not the most healthy Joes out there. So I'm not sold. I think you might want to wait a little bit, because say the last thing I'll say on this particular conversation with the Atlantic Division, say Philly gets off to a really good start with both of them. Maybe you get the Celtics at longer odds, but I think the time may have passed to get the Celtics to win this division. Plus 300, I think it could get better.
Yeah, and I think that if you can get the Celtics right now at plus 300, it might be a smart play because, like you talked about, Clash, Embiid's never played with someone that can score like Harden. I know he had, part of a season with Jimmy Butler. Ben Simmons was never that guy. I mean, Harden is a different level, and I know he's having his worst season since becoming a starter in Houston from a points perspective. So that's since 2012, 2013.
You know what that's about?
He's at 22 points a game.
That's about rule changes too in the league. He's not getting the free throws that he used to. Mm-hmm. The officiating has changed. They're not letting these guys, jerk up, these lean in, get the foul kind of thing. Like, that's what's hurting Harden's game.
Yeah, he's not getting to the line like 16 times a game or whatever.
Right.
And look, the injury history with Joel is there. Harden has been out of shape, and here and there he'll miss stretches. So I think getting the Celtics at plus money right now to win this division is kind of a tasty proposition. I threw some money on them to win the NBA Finals a few weeks, I want to say like 8 days ago, because it just I like the odds. They were starting to round into form a little bit. I just threw a couple bones on it. If it pays out, I'm a Celtics fan, so not only will they win and I'll be happy there, I'll also put a little coin in the pocket. But man, I'm with you. I if you're Philly, you have to make this move, right? Because you're getting nothing out of Ben Simmons and you're bringing in James Harden. You got to do that, right?
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee that this immediately makes them the favorite to come out of the East, right? I mean, you have Maxey, who's been playing well for them at guard. And like, how does his game get impacted by bringing in a Harden who is going to completely reshape the way that offense is played? How does Tobias Harris's game get impacted as the third banana? Because he's looked nice in that second banana role. Yes, we're talking in bananas here. So I just and the Doc angle is a great call. I hadn't even thought about that. Yes, 08 happened, but everything since 08, it seems like when egos are in the mix, Doc isn't able to remove his own ego and figure it out. It always feels like Doc is sort of like part of the mess, right? Like, oh, he's one of the 15 greatest coaches of all time, though, right? Well, no, maybe not. Maybe they were just looking to put a shiny name on the graphic on social media. So I'm not sold on the Sixers yet either. But what do you think tonight with the Sixers at Minnesota? They are 2.5-point favorites at the moment. And, we just said everything we said about Harden, but he does seem to like to play up to the hype on these debut games. I remember his first game in Houston back in the day was huge. Last season with Brooklyn in his debut, 39 minutes, 32 points, 12 boards, 14 assists, 4 steals, 13 for 15 from the line. I could see Harden having a big game tonight, but, moving forward, I'm not cashing in on, any Sixers stuff here. What do you think about tonight's line?
Yeah, let me be very clear. Like, I think James Harden is going to sacrifice. Like, he did that in Brooklyn. Like, I thought he was actually a pretty good teammate with Kevin Durant. Like, I think it's easier said than done trying to get them to fit in such a short window. Everyone thinks we're in the second, and a friend of mine, Matt Moore at Action Network, he pointed this out. It's so true. This is not the second half of the NBA season. There's a quarter of the season left. Like they don't have much time. So this thought about Brooklyn's going to figure it out and Philly's going to figure it out. Well, yes, they're going to be playoff teams, but I don't know, like for an Atlantic Division prop, like you said, like I don't think it's the worst idea to go get the Celtics now because that could change. As it pertains to tonight, the one thing that does edge the Sixers is it's the second night of a back-to-back for the Timberwolves. So that helps. And the Timberwolves at one point were trailing to Memphis. That's a tough back-to-back. Memphis and Philly back-to-back nights. I don't know if Memphis, or part of me, the Wolves have an answer to stop James Harden, who, let's be honest, like if this was a playoff game or if the last 2 weeks were the playoffs, James Harden's probably playing, right? So I would like to believe James Harden just use this time off to rest up. And like I said, it's going to be up to Doc to manage it the rest of the way. If the hamstring is a real concern, that I think the Sixers here now, while they're on the road, it's the second night of a back-to-back for Minnesota at home. Minnesota, if you go look at their ATS record, second night of a back-to-back, it's not good. They're under 500 by a handful of games. Ride the trend. I think the Sixers are going to come out and play well. And that's what I mean. Like, if you wait on the Celtics Atlantic Division, maybe there is a spark with Harden. He wants to come out and prove that, hey, everything's fine here. I'm a winning player. I'm going to make it work with Joel. Maybe those odds rise for a Boston Celtics or maybe the Raptors if you're interested, or even the Nets if they can get it figured out in time. But those odds might rise across the division if Philly gets off to a good start. So I actually like the Sixers tonight on the second night of a back-to-back for Minnesota.
Brendan, I want to ask you about this in the East, about the Bulls.
Yeah.
Now, I think a lot of people, including myself, I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm assuming I know where you're going with this, that you don't have a lot of faith in Cleveland, right, to make any kind of run in the East.
They just lost to the Pistons last night. That's annoying.
It is.
And again, the Celtics lost to the Pistons too, so I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth.
Those young Cleveland guys were definitely feeling themselves coming out of the All-Star weekend, probably, right? Little humble pie, go in, lose to Detroit.
Look, I know it's Cleveland, but there was a party all weekend for All-Star weekend. You don't mean
and those guys were in it,
Exactly. Just because they weren't All-Stars, what? Oh, it's All-Star weekend. We have to leave. No. They could have stayed for the party.
But the Bulls, though,
let's party up because we get the Pistons on Thursday out of the break. We'll be fine. Roll the balls out.
Do you like this Chicago team to, in the words of us, make any noise or not? I mean, DeRozan's having a great run right now. Levine, if you keep him healthy, if you can get Lonzo Ball back anytime soon, and you have Vucevic, who I feel like he's a guy that you forget about that he's there, But you think Chicago can be in this mix with Philly, Boston, Miami, Brooklyn, Milwaukee in the East, or maybe 2 rounds and done?
Look, so a couple things have shortened here. The odds for DeRozan to win MVP have shortened over the last couple days. I actually think after last night, think about that kind of response. So DeMar DeRozan has hit his points prop now in 11 straight games. He has scored at least 30 points now, I think, in 11 straight. Something absurd. And there's the company that he's in with that. You got to go to Wilt, Kareem, LeBron, Jordan. He's in an elite conversation. So I think DeMar DeRozan, and LeBron had some really nice things to say about him at the All-Star break. And that's telling to me because LeBron is the first one who can point out that he can expose DeMar DeRozan in the playoffs. See the Cleveland Cavaliers during that run where LeBron just ran the East and that Toronto Raptors backcourt had no answers. So I think DeMar getting out of Toronto and out of San Antonio has turned his career around. But I think it comes down to Levine. If Levine proves to be, of course, not only a sniper, but if he can get to the rim and get them some tough baskets, they'll be a threat. They're a matchup problem for sure. But what I wonder about DeRozan is when he runs into some really good teams on the wing. So Boston with Brown and Tatum, Miami, they've got plenty of guys who can guard the wing. Not to say that Chicago can't either. The Sixers, I think, can be exposed from an offensive standpoint on Chicago's side. So no, I think the East really, and then the other team that no one's talking about enough, I think, is Milwaukee. I know the reigning champions aren't getting enough respect. So if to answer your question, if they get to the second round and they don't push it to 6-7 games, I think that's a failure. But I mean, the Bulls should win their first round matchup. Then again, if they get Brooklyn, I don't know if I feel good about that. If Brooklyn gets it figured out, so I don't know. I think we're kind of figuring out here that the East that first round in the East is actually going to be really, really compelling. It's going to be very.
I was just thinking this while you were talking, Glash, because I saw this on social the other day. The 04 Pistons were the only NBA champion in the last 50 years that didn't have a single guy on the NBA 75 list. And let's say the Bulls go on some sort of run here. Yeah. Doesn't this Bulls team kind of remind you of that Pistons team in 04? And yes, DeRozan, I think, is criminally underrated because he's individually great. But in the way of there's no real superstar on this Bulls team. It's just collectively a really nicely put together roster that has a solid, 6-man rotation that could, be trouble for a lot of teams. So I don't know. That comp kind of popped into my head.
Yeah. I don't know if they're elite enough defensively to be there.
True.
And, the Bulls too, they rank in the bottom 8 in the league in 3-pointers made per game. And you'd think with Levine, that number would be larger, but I don't know. In the playoffs, defense is going to be really important. How you guard on the wing is really important, and I don't know if they're going to have enough time with the injuries to Ball. Even Caruso is a big player. We saw what Caruso meant to that Lakers team. Mm-hmm. He's a nice player too at the point defensively. So. Look, here's the other thing that's riding the Bulls. I see you've got the straight up and against the spread records there. The Bulls last night with their win over the Atlanta Hawks, which Atlanta, good team in terms of offense. That's a team you got to pay attention to that can rack up points. The total in that game last night was over 240. Chicago held them under their team total, their projected team total. The Bulls are 22-10 against the spread at home. So if they get a home court if they get some home court in the first round, second round, maybe they could make some sort of a run. But I think they can be had by say they do get the Celtics or they get Brooklyn in the second round and they're even at home. I think those games, while they've covered well against the bottom of the league, that'd be a tough series for them.
So there's a tasty game tonight in Phoenix. We got New Orleans plus 6.5 heading to the Suns. You have the Pels with CJ McCollum now and Brandon Ingram, that solid 1-2 that they got for New Orleans. And you got Phoenix trying to figure it out without CP3 here as we head into the last 8 weeks of the season. So kind of a tale of two teams here. Pelicans bringing in McCollum to see if they can get into that play-in mix and maybe possibly make a little bit of noise at the bottom part of the Western Conference. And you got Phoenix trying to figure out if they can stay as the top team in the NBA record-wise with CP3 on the shelf. So what do you make of both of these situations, and who do you like tonight?
Here's a tell for you. If you go to odds to see who makes the playoffs, Pelicans are at plus 600. And the Portland Trailblazers, who are currently holding on to that 10 spot in the West, they would get that first, they would be the last team into the play-in game. The Portland Trailblazers are at plus 1,600. So the projection here is that they're going to fall off, and Anthony Simons, as fun as he's been to watch, he will tail off. Now, the Blazers had to play Steph Curry and the Warriors last night. But same scenario that I mentioned with the Timberwolves for the Phoenix Suns. Second night of a back-to-back. It's their second game without Chris Paul. They had that game and then the Thunder, scrappy Thunder team. That Thunder team is going to get spread this season. Yeah, they're a good team when it comes to covering. So that means they're a good team, in my opinion. The Thunder, but they ended up losing by 20. So the Suns pulled away. No, but they hung in there, is my point.
Yeah, it's just funny. We set it up. Oh, we liked them. Man, they lost by 20.
Yeah, no, and the spread in that game was 10.5. So on the second night of a back-to-back, we're asking the Suns with a depleted backcourt right now, because right now I think they're running out Aaron Holiday to run some point for them with Paul being out. Cameron Payne, I'm not sure if he's playing tonight or not, but that to me would be a key to this. Devin Booker is more of a facilitator, meaning he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. I'm curious how that changes things. Now, I thought, because I was interested in DeAndre Ayton, or at least one of the plays I gave out was Ayton points and rebounds, and Ayton was not good. He was not good last night. That's a concern for me. Ayton getting set up by Chris Paul on the lobs, offensively, in the flow of the offense. Like, can Devin Booker still do that without the orchestrator that Chris Paul is? And that's what concerns me. I think Phoenix is going to win games, but are they going to cover spreads consistently? I think that's a work in progress. And like you said, I mean, McCollum has given the Pelicans, thank goodness for the Pelicans too, with what's going on with Zion. They need a little something, a little lift.
Weird stuff.
Yeah, not great. And have they spoken yet, McCollum and Zion? That's been the discussion.
Very worried about that.
So look, the Pelicans are going to try and make a little run here. They're in it. They're in the discussion to get that 10 seed. I'll put it to you like this. I haven't seen enough yet out of the Suns without Chris Paul to be confident they're going to cover on back-to-back nights by multiple possessions. And 6.5 would constitute multiple possessions. So if I had to lean one way or the other, I would lean the Pelicans way.
Hey, Kevin, before you get into this last point, I just want to throw this in about the Suns. Their next 23 games, 15 of them are pretty losable without Chris Paul, for my money. They have Utah twice, New Orleans twice, Lakers twice, Sixers, Warriors, Memphis, Milwaukee, Miami, Toronto, Chicago, Minnesota, and Denver. So, we might see the Suns tail off a little bit here if Ayton can't figure it out without that facilitator. And, if Booker kind of regresses as a scorer because he's trying to facilitate more. I got my eye on the Suns, maybe to fade them money line moving forward here in the next 6 to 8 weeks or so.
Just to jump in too, I've heard this too, if the Lakers and or Clippers figure it out or they get healthy for the play-in, because that's what it feels like each of those teams are going to be. And look at all this. This is exactly what Adam Silver wanted. All of this play-in talk. Well, you're getting it now with these marquee teams not being healthy and being freaking soap operas. If indeed one of those teams figure it out, I don't really understand why folks think maybe the Clippers, but the Lakers, why all of a sudden they would be a matchup problem for the Suns in a first round. Like LeBron is 2-7 against the Suns since going to Los Angeles. I think that's the stat. 2-7. The playoff series last year is when they thought they'd have the matchup edge there, but Ayton just keeps getting better. And the key to that whole Lakers team is, can Anthony Davis be a 1? And he's not, because LeBron clearly chose wrong on the star to have next to him. Davis was not the guy. He got the wrong star. It worked for a year. They won a title because they had 3 months off and he could get his body right in the bubble. But yeah, I think the Suns are going to be fine. What you might, and I'm tailing off for some conversations I had with the guys at the Action Network. Keep an eye on what Chris Paul will look like in the first round. Because maybe that might be the series the Suns struggle, because you're going to get Paul back. They're going to try to get him acclimated. If indeed they're a 1 seed and they draw a Clippers team with like Kawhi Leonard, that could be scary, and that could be a case where the Suns might have to, really grind it out 6-7 games, possibly.
Now, Brendan, before we let you go,
yep.
I know we like to say, who's the sleeper in this conference for the playoffs? I'm going the other way with this one. Give me a non-playoff team. I know we talked about Oklahoma City for a second. Give me a non-playoff team that could be worth a lot of value in the three-quarters half, not second half, but three-quarters half on this back end. A team that's outside of the playoffs and maybe has some good value, at least from an ATS perspective.
Whew, good team against the spread the rest of the way. Well, I do not want to look to the Eastern Conference, because I think it's going to be a battle between Detroit and Orlando. I say that, and the Pistons won last night, so what do I know? But I mean, the Pistons, I figured, would want to lose games to get another high draft pick. So I look out west, and I think there's some sort of DNA that Domantas Sabonis brings to a team. And the Kings, I know they've been kind of gross this year. They've been, wow.
This year.
Forever.
Decade.
Yeah.
Forever. Yeah, that's fair. Don't sleep on the Kings to be competitive. There's something there that Sabonis brings to the table from an energy standpoint. He's a great, near double-double kind of guy. Sabonis will give them, and Halliburton is a hell of a player. Like, I love Halliburton. I think he's fantastic. So I think there's something to be said there for the Kings to at least keep things competitive. And make it so. Now, of course, Halliburton's gone, so they're relying on Fox to come back. But I think Sabonis gives them a little bit of new life. And that Pacers team, while the Pacers are not good in the Eastern Conference, Sabonis was the guy to keep them in games, at least on the glass. So I think they have a better chance of being more structured with Sabonis inside, and they could be good against any number. Of course, I'm not picking them to make a run for the play-in, but maybe a team that you don't want to deal with.
I like that.
Brendan Glasheen, appreciate your time. 98.5 The Sports Hub, Action Network, DraftKings, and also play-by-play. What, Connecticut Sun is on the agenda?
Yes, sir. And then you got the Maine Celtics, G League affiliate of the Boston Celtics.
Nice. I like
Stretch run coming up.
Good.
Love
good.
It.
And Brendan, you can follow him on Twitter. You see on the screen there, Brendan Glasheen. G-L-A, and then like Charlie Sheen at the end. That's how you spell his last name.
I love how you say my last name, by the way. Brendan Glasheen. That's good. That's powerful. Powerful stuff.
See? And hey, Glash, before you go, I got to show you this. I'm going to scroll up. 1 second.
Are we getting up here? That's what we're doing. Are we getting up and moving?
This guy. Nice rolly chair he's got there, huh?
This is the freeze pop holder that Glash's mom made me. So you put a freeze pop in this little holder, and it keeps
Kevin,
your hand.
Do you want one? Is that
it
why?
keeps your hand warm, and it keeps the
Brendan,
freeze
let
pop
me be honest
freezing.
with you, and I don't know you well enough to call you Glash yet. I know Tommy does. That's why I'm just going like first name. I'm not about that. It's more about this guy. I'm telling you, Tommy, don't listen to what I'm about to say. This guy has ridden this freeze pops thing, and it's like, oh my god, he's riding this thing all the way to the finish.
You got to take what you can get.
So, what are the odds on the brand equity of Tommy Freeze Pops? Is the market down on for Kevin?
Invest
Rogers?
now. Invest
No, this
now.
is what it is. It's that Scott Van Pelt knows him as Tommy Freeze Pops. So it's like, fine, let's just ride this all the way.
Oh, there's much more than just Van Pelt. You know, there's others.
Who else is on that list? Rosillo?
Everybody that's ever met me in media.
Admittedly, he's in my phone as Thom Carroll because I'm like, I'm not going to think to search FREE. Like, how about Thom Carroll? Leave it at that.
He is Tom Freeze Pops on my phone, though, because I kept it that way when I first met him. So I just like forget. I can't change names. Once you're in the cell phone the first time, I'm done. I'm not editing it.
Makes total sense.
Freeze Pops for me is more like if I had to like type out a message or like say, hey, I talked to Freeze Pops, but like I can't come around to call you that still.
It's fair. That's fair. You're Glash to me. And to your mom. Tommy Freeze Pops.
There you go.
Brendan, thank you. We will talk to you again soon.
All right. Very good. Thanks, guys.
All right. There's Brendan Glasheen. Always good talking to him, even though it's the first time I've talked to him. So I say always good for me. But I know you've talked to him a lot during your career. So very good information out of him. So good to talk to him. Now we're going to transition to Thom Cunningham to talk Oscars. And Thom, it's good to see you again. Hello. And this is what we're going to do today. Last week we talked about like best movie, and today we're going to go more into the best actor, best actress categories. So what we have here on the screen, there we go. We're all small, and there it is. All right. Nice. So best actor, Will Smith, Fresh Prince, King Richard. You've seen King Richard. You've told me about King Richard.
Yes.
And your thoughts on that movie and him being the favorite at -275.
It's justified. If you scroll down, Kevin, actually, to the very bottom of that page, keep going all the way down, past the odds, you'll see my rankings. And you'll see what movies I've viewed and reviewed, the ones in bold I've watched. If you go down a little bit below that, though, Kevin, below the nominations, you'll see the
scrolling.
How long is this page?
So I currently have Will Smith as my favorite for the best actor this year. The only movie that I have not reviewed yet would be in that category is The Power of the Dog, and Benedict Cumberbatch is the co-favorite. And Will Smith's odds have actually dropped. They were -300 at one point, so they've gone down, not terribly down, but they have gone down. And Benedict Cumberbatch's odds have gone up, along with Andrew Garfield's odds. They've both gone up. So I think there is justification to be nervous if you're a Will Smith bettor for Best Actor. But I really think it was the strongest performance of the four that I've seen thus far. And I had Denzel very high on my list for Tragedy of Macbeth. I thought it's Denzel Washington, so you give him a Shakespeare script. He's going to hit a home run every time. So I really like Denzel, but Will Smith was so good as King Richard. Richard Williams, of course. Great movie overall. You could flip a coin between that and Coda for me as the best movie I've seen right now, but I've only gotten through half of the nominations for best movie. But if you look right above that, you'll see King Richard 1, Coda 2 for best film. And I think Will Smith did an excellent job. So as of right now, I would put my money on him for best actor, but the shortened odds over the last few days, it's definitely an alert for sure.
So Thom, since we talked to you last Friday, what has been the biggest swing in the Oscars market for any of the categories that you have noticed? What maybe the biggest 2 or 3? What has changed since last Friday?
Well, the biggest swing I think I've seen thus far is actually in the hair and makeup category. And Kevin has seen this movie. Coming to America was actually had the lowest odds to win best makeup and hairstyle. It was actually below House of Gucci, which is now 14-1. Coming to America, I believe it was 20-1, 25-1. It's now 5-1. So something happened where Coming to America just jumped over 2 movies in the odds. Now, I personally don't think it's going to win best hair and makeup because The Eyes of Tammy Faye was, just so good. And I still haven't seen Dune yet, and that's got pretty good odds to win. I just thought it was very interesting that Coming to America jumped House of Gucci and is now tied with Cruella. And last time we talked, with Cruella, it was, in my mind, tied to be the co-favorite for hair and makeup. So I think that's a huge surprise to me, but I'm not betting on Coming to America, even though the odds have drastically shifted in their favor.
I want to go back to one of the rankings you have here. And
Yeah.
I always find this funny about, you look at guys like Al Pacino and Denzel Washington. There are these roles, these iconic roles, but yet it's like they love Shakespeare. They love these other things. You're like, no, Denzel, you're Training Day. You're these other things. So Tragedy of Macbeth, you see Denzel in that. What did you – I mean, obviously Denzel's great in everything, but why did you rank him so high there?
Honestly, I thought he was the best between him, Garfield, and Javier Bardem, who was excellent in being the Ricardos. All three were fantastic. Denzel's range, quantity of long monologues, to me, that's hard. Memorization is very difficult for me in acting. And so when you have a lot of long monologues, especially with Shakespeare dialogue, which is very difficult to not only interpret, but actually make interesting, to the viewers, especially in 2020 and 21, 22. I mean, our attention span is so short. No one's going to go out and see a Shakespeare play. I mean, majority population won't. But Denzel was able to capture an audience and bring them in and really follow the story. And his range was fantastic. It's, Denzel. Yeah, every time he steps into the batter's box, he's game to hit a home run. And I thought he did that with Macbeth.
So, Tom, I saw on Twitter either last night or a couple days ago that your thought process on Flea has changed. You didn't mention changing your mind in the way of best doc, but maybe for best animated film or animated short. I forget which category that's in. Animated film. That Flea may be not your favorite at the moment to win that award. What changed?
I still think Flea has great value. So if you're looking for value, I would say Flea 5-1 best animated feature. That to me is a solid pick. I personally enjoyed The Mitchells versus the Machines more than any other animated movie. I thought the script was so good. And I would argue that The Mitchells versus the Machines script beats some of the contenders for best movies that I've seen, at least. And what do I mean by best script? Callbacks are very huge to me. Anytime something is referenced and brought back later in a movie or in a script, that to me is very good writing. And that happened about 5 or 6 times in the movie. And then the key word here is animation, best animated movie. If you've seen The Mitchells versus the Machines, the animation is good, but they add layers of animation on top of that animation throughout the movie. So if you've ever seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, it took home best animated movie a few years ago. And this is the same studio that made that movie. So I'm not going to write that movie off just yet, The Mitchells versus the Machines. I think it's the best script of any of the animated movies I've seen. I think it's a top 5 script of all nominations for movies I've seen thus far. The cast is stellar. You have Eric Andre, Olivia Colman, who's nominated for Best Actress this year, Danny McBride, Maya Rudolph, who also was in Luca. So she is in 2 movies that are up for Best Animated Movie. I just think that it's a very good dark horse, but I still think Flea's value in the Best Animated Movie department is probably the way to go. But Encanto is still the favorite. It's minus 350, and a lot of people seem to like that. So this is a very difficult category. I would argue that the animation category is the strongest at this year's Oscars from top to bottom.
Tom, I want to go back to the Best Actress, and Nicole Kidman is the favorite at even money. Kristen Stewart's second. Spencer plays Princess Diana. But Nicole Kidman is Lucille Ball. You saw being the Ricardos. What do you think about her performance?
Excellent. She wins. It's justified. A++ all around. One of the best roles I've ever seen her in. She was fantastic in it. That whole movie was incredible. I'm actually very much stunned it's not up for Best Movie of the Year. I thought, side note, Tony Hale could have gotten snubbed a little bit for Best Supporting Actor. Many people might know him from Arrested Development. That's probably his best role, most well-known role. But Nicole Kidman was fantastic. Everyone played very well off each other in that movie. Javier played well off her. She played well off him. It was just a strong performance all around. But I have Jessica Chastain beating her out by a hair. The odds don't agree with that. So I think if you're going to choose Best Actress, Nicole Kidman at plus value is honestly a gift from the odds makers at this point.
Tony Hale also great in Veep. You guys seen Veep
Yeah,
on
he is.
HBO? Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, great actor.
So good.
Yeah.
So the other one I want to go over, because you had the list, Tom, about movies you've seen. When are you going to watch Licorice Pizza? That one, Paul Thomas Anderson, who did Boogie Nights, who did Magnolia, which I wasn't a huge fan of. I thought that was kind of a boring movie. I think Boogie Nights is a classic.
Movie geeks love that movie.
But Licorice Pizza, though,
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper is in it. I think
He
Sean
is.
Penn is in it. What do you think? I mean, you'll see it eventually, but what kind of run has it gotten so far?
Very good ones. I think it's favored for best original screenplay right now at -165. So it could very well take that home. I haven't seen it yet, but it's up for best director. I think a lot of people felt Bradley Cooper was snubbed for best supporting actor in this movie. Again, I haven't reviewed it, but I'll let you know as soon as I do. So some of these movies are still in theaters. Syriana is another one starring Peter Dinklage. It's up for best costume. Licorice Pizza's in theaters. Spider-Man, Far From Home. Now, I watched that over Christmas, but I didn't know what it would be nominated for. So now I have to go back to the theater and figure out exactly where I put it in my visual effects rankings. So there's still a few movies that are in theaters that are not available to stream. Those are the ones that I haven't marked off just quite yet. But they will, we'll get to those eventually. And Licorice Pizza is very, very high on everyone's list right now. Again, favored to win best original screenplay. And it's up there for best movie. It's one of the contenders. So I have very, very high expectations for that movie.
Licorice Pizza, like as far as it would taste, though, probably not very good. I'm not a big licorice guy as it is.
Licorice in general.
Yeah, licorice is bad. I don't want to put it on something that's good. Like just because you're putting licorice on pizza doesn't mean licorice gets better. It's still just licorice. It's going to make the pizza worse. So I'm out on that from a food perspective. Yeah, gross.
I wanted another one. Is Summer of Soul? Is that the documentary?
Say that again.
Summer of Soul.
Yeah.
Is that the documentary? I feel like I saw from it was a Questlove that did that.
Yeah, he did do that. I'm so happy he got nominated too. I remember watching that in the summer, July or June. I'm thinking, okay, this is the best documentary I've seen this year thus far. I think Flea's better. And Attica to me is also has a dark horse run in it. I saw the odds come out, and they actually have Ascension higher than Attica, which I don't agree with. Attica to me was insane, quite frankly. I highly recommend everyone go watch Attica if you can. But I think Flea, the impact of the story, documentaries to me work better when the stakes are very high, and the Flea stakes, you won't get much higher than that. The story is absolutely incredible. And like I mentioned last week on Friday, the way that movie was produced is very unique, an animation documentary. So I think Flea, to me, is the best documentary. And the odds dropped for documentary. Last Friday, they were not out. They're available now. And best documentary, Summer of Souls, -200. Flea is the second favorite at +140. So it's not like Summer of Soul is just like heads and tails better than Attica and Flea. So I think I'd look at Flea again for best value between best animation and best documentary. Flea has plus value in both categories. I would look at either of those because I think it's the best documentary I've seen thus far. I still have one more to go, but I don't think it's going to beat Flea. Well,
coming up next week, we'll look at some of the other odds. I don't think we'll get to best score yet. We'll wait on that one, Tom.
I will say, though, best song, good odds there for Be Alive, sung by Beyonce for the movie King Richard. I think a lot of people are on Billie Eilish. I think I said her name right.
Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish, sorry. I'm not in the music industry, as you can tell. But Billie Eilish, she sung the James Bond No Time to Die, and that's favored at -275. Again, not huge favored odds, so there is wiggle room to consider value. I think it's going to be very difficult to beat Beyonce. That's just me. She's very established. She has
Queen.
It's going to be difficult. But I think if anyone's going to do it, it is the favorite, Billie Eilish for No Time to Die. But if you're looking for value, 8-1, Be Alive, King Richard by Beyonce. I think that's the best song of the year so far.
Yeah, I wonder.
I was going to say really quick, Tom, aren't all these Bond songs the same, like No Time to Die?
That was going to be my point.
They don't die. They don't not die. They survive, all of them.
Yeah, my point was going to be, can we look back at like how Bond movie original songs have performed and kind of come up with some sort of model here,
You'd be surprised when you go through the decades. It gets pretty trippy when you get to the 80s. But I would honestly, I think the lyrics, the melody, the beat, everything, the singer even, I think it all goes to Be Alive. I think Be Alive is a great value pick for best song. And keep in mind, last year's Oscars, the largest underdog at 25-1 of the entire show was Judas and the Black Messiah for best song. So that category is as up in the air as any other category, because it's very difficult to understand what the voters are thinking for that category. Like
My
what
buddies
defines
and
it?
I, my buddy and I were hanging out the other night, like just going through YouTube, bunch of weird stuff, and we stumbled upon 3-6 Mafia winning for Hard Out Here for a Pimp for Hustle and Flow back in like 03 or 04. One of the greatest acceptance speeches you will ever see in the history of award shows. I urge everyone to go find that on YouTube. Great stuff.
Well, Tom, thank you very much. And next week we'll talk again. More Oscars talk as we get into March Madness. Getting there.
Awesome. Yes, March Madness. That's also my cup of tea. I promise I'll have the power of the dog knocked out by Friday when we hop on again. So
I have no faith, or I have plenty of faith that you will do that. I would say I have no faith that you won't do that. I was gonna double negative it. You won't do it. I guarantee it. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
See you guys.
All right, there's Thom Cunningham, and I really believe that Tom, that James Bond, I'm not a huge Bond fan. I've seen a handful of, maybe less than a handful of the Bond movies, but how many villains can this guy beat off? You know, how many of them? I mean, come on.
No, it's
25 of them.
It's insane. But I will say, when it comes to Bond songs, two jump out to me. Adele had one a few years ago that was pretty good. And then Live and Let Die, Paul McCartney and the Wings back in the day. Right. Two very good Bond songs. So Beyonce and what is it? It's Billie Eilish and Bond. Those are two big brands. Maybe throw down a little cash there. I like how Tom's thinking there.
I'm not laying $275 on that song. Ever. That's just
okay. Fair. That's a good mantra to live by.
Yes. Our thanks to Thom Cunningham and Brendan Glasheen for joining us. And we'll be back with you coming up on Monday. And we'll have a new week. And we will transition from February to March. We have February, I think, Monday. And then we get into March on Tuesday. Yep. But Tom, thank you so much. And we'll talk to you again next Friday.
Kevin, thanks a lot. And if you guys want to check out this week's Great Dane Nation, Mike Eruzione, the captain of the 1980 USA Olympic hockey team that beat the Soviets, the Miracle on Ice. Morton and him had a great conversation, talked a lot about today's NHL, the state of the game, the state of U.S. hockey. A lot of fun. Football offseason gives us a little bit more flexibility to kind of dive into some other stuff. So Morton, not a huge hockey fan, but he faked it. It was good. He faked it pretty well.
All I do is thinking about with Miracle, with Kurt Russell. Again.
Mike had some interesting stuff to say about that movie, actually. I won't spoil it.
I'll be honest, I have not heard it, but at least tell me here what, it was far-fetched or it was right on or what?
It was the Herb Brooks story, and they were along for the ride.
But he was the coach. He was the main guy. I mean,
but was he out there playing bodies, Kevin? Did he put the puck in the net? There's some interesting. We could have gone deeper on the Miracle stuff. You could tell it was a touchy subject.
Really?
I think those guys are a little salty about how it was portrayed. I really do. I got that vibe because he immediately was like, the documentary's better. So
that's fine. That's fair. I get it.
If you scored the game-winning goal and your character in the movie didn't have any speaking lines, wouldn't you be a little salty too?
He spoke a little bit, right? Didn't he?
Yeah, not as much as Kurt Russell. I'll just spoil it at this point. He was
I feel like the goalie, the guy who played tag on Friends, he had
Craig,
more of a big role in the movie than Eruzione did.
Yeah, no, fair. And Eruzione, he brought up the point. He was like, Brooks's wife was a big part of the movie. He's like, I don't even know what Herb Brooks's wife looked like. She wasn't around the team at all. Why was she a big part of the movie? So you can tell the guys might be a little salty about that.
It's fair. Okay, that's fair. I like it. All right, Tom, we'll talk to you again next Friday, and we'll be back with the Daily Insider coming up on Monday at noon. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider. We would greatly appreciate that. And for Tom Carroll, I am Kevin Rogers. We appreciate you watching, and as always, best of luck.